Given WWE's large roster, the company has often placed their stars in positions where they were unable to make the best of their situation. A part of being a wrestler is adapting to gimmicks. Often stars are judged by how over they were able to get a gimmick that otherwise might have been ridiculous. Though there have been certain times that the company has booked wrestlers in such a manner that despite all the potential or promise, they sunk to the lowest of lows. This is Wrestling Up, and here 10 times wrestlers were screwed due to questionable booking. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official, and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. When Karrion Kross made his NXT debut, he looked intimidating, and paired with Scarlett, they were a force to be reckoned with. He would soon dominate, showing off his ability as he destroyed anyone that came close to posing a challenge. Given his size, something Vince McMahon is known to prefer, fans were hoping for the star to continue his upward trajectory. Kross was still NXT champion, having defeated everyone on that brand, but when he joined the main roster, he was defeated in his very first match on Raw. Not only that, he was made to look like he was not a threat. He has since suffered another defeat, and is far from being the star fans expected him to be. He was also separated from Scarlett, something that has obviously hurt him. Kross since then has not been booked in a single storyline where he has looked good. In fact, all his momentum has disappeared. He has lost the NXT championship and has even disappeared from regular television. When he does appear, he wears a hideous mask that makes him appear cartoonish. The booking of a potential world champion in such a manner has taken away one of the best possibilities WWE had for building a new star. Zack Ryder made his own name while in WWE. He was a lower card talent, and after his separation from Edge, he began to showcase more of it. He changed his look, and then when he saw WWE was not doing anything with him, he started a new show on YouTube, which was a hit with fans. He was so popular that fans were chanting for him on a weekly basis during shows because he was not booked by WWE. In the end, they had to acquiesce to fans' wishes, but they did so in a manner that only they would do. They had him win the US title, and just when it looked like he was getting a massive push, they put him in a ridiculous storyline with John Cena, Eve, and Kane. Cena apparently had an affair with Eve, who was his on-screen romantic partner, while Kane made it his mission to destroy Ryder, putting him in a wheelchair and later throwing him off a ramp. Eve would also turn on him, eventually kicking him down below and basically abandoning him. WWE's storyline killed his momentum completely, and he would spend years working in the lower mid-card, hardly appearing on TV, and losing whenever he did. WWE's booking was so bad that it screwed the momentum that Ryder had, and forced his WWE run to be nothing worth remembering. Every now and again, WWE manages to book something that is out of this world completely by accident. Given that it is WWE, however, they then manage to take that and ruin it. Nexus was such an angle. Superstars from the first season of NXT, back when it was more of a game show, rose up from the black and gold brand and attacked the wrestlers on the main roster, destroying John Cena and even turning on the man who had apparently brought them there, Vince McMahon. The storyline was an immensely good one, which had the potential to make Wade Barrett and every other wrestler in that group into an immense star. However, during a SummerSlam match, they lost to John Cena, ruining Nexus forever. Though Barrett would go on to remain a force, nearly every other star was lost with a few exceptions. Barrett never reached the heights he was capable of either, making it a waste. CM Punk is one of WWE's top former stars of all time. In fact, when Punk arrived, he was exactly what was needed to make the place a better success. After working in ECW and having various storylines, including the very well done Straight Edge Society, Punk was finally given a shot to make it in the big leagues with the Pipe Bomb. The Pipe Bomb exposed the dirty underbelly of WWE. It appeared to fans that Punk had actually gone off script, and soon it was clear he was going to be a star no one could hold back. Becoming the voice of all the frustrations fans had with WWE, Punk soared to the top in a few days. He held the WWE Championship for more than a year during this time and became one of the greatest champions, but there was one problem. WWE was not putting him in the main event of WrestleMania. This was the one thing he had wanted in his career to close out Mania. He was never given that opportunity, as even though he held the title, WWE felt that should go to John Cena. He was unhappy, and when Punk lost to Undertaker 1 year and was then given a match against Triple H, still not in the main event, he lost it. WWE's booking of him was horrendous, and Punk, who was carrying injuries, had enough of of what he perceived to be insults and walked out. He would never wrestle in a WWE ring again, instead now joining AEW after a stint in MMA. The Brawl for All was a 1998 tournament held by WWE which involved legitimate shoot fighting. At this time, they took 16 wrestlers who were not doing much and put them in a tournament. According to Bob Holly and Jim Ross, this was an attempt to get Dr. Death, Steve Williams, over. They were going to have us go out there on a live TV wrestling show and fight for real in an attempt to get some ratings. It was also an attempt to get a wrestler by the name of Dr. Death, Steve Williams, over. Jim Ross, who was in charge of talent, had been lobbying to bring his buddy Steve in for a long time, but creative didn't know how to do it. Steve had wrestled in Japan for the majority of his career and had a reputation as a genuine badass, so they figured they would introduce him in the Brawl for All. He'd walk through everybody and boom, they'd have a credible guy that could leapfrog over everybody else to put up against Austin in the main events. The winner was going to get $100,000 as well. The entire concept of the Brawl for All was ridiculous, and it also hurt kayfabe as it turned out that calling a tournament only for the reason that it was going to be legitimate and shoot was not good when they were pretending all the other matches during their shows were also shoots. On top of that, when the time came for Williams to compete, he made it to the second round, but got knocked out by Bart Gunn in a matter of minutes. He never managed to get to the next level as a result and would end up as a jobber. WWE could have gotten him over by traditional methods, but the Brawl for All effectively put a stop to his main event potential. When he was on NXT, Keith Lee was the hottest star. In 2020, WWE called him up to the main roster, starting off hot with a feud against Randy Orton, but then he started to be taken off television for long intervals of time. Whenever he returns, the feuds have been hit or miss. With consistent booking, Lee could easily be a main event star. Instead, WWE has recently changed his name to Bearcat Lee, not giving any reason for it. Lee has been appearing on the main roster and disappearing again and again, even with the name change, leading it to fans no longer caring about him. WWE does odd things, but nothing has been as strange as the Katie Vick storyline. Triple H took out the Hurricane, leaving Kane alone to defend the tag titles. Kane won the match still, but then was interrupted by Triple H. Triple H then began to bring up Katie Vick, which Kane would address over time, revealing that Kane had an accident when he was driving with Katie. An animal jumped in front of them, which led to him swerving, crashing, and Katie dying. As if that was not bad enough, Triple H then implied that Kane had sex with Vick after she passed. In a move that was in bad taste, Triple H dressed up as Kane and groped the body of a mannequin and went on to simulate sex with Katie. The final line was, "I did it, I screwed your brains out." Fans were naturally offended, and the story did nothing to help anyone. There was even a segment where a spoof Triple H had things removed from his butt in a hospital by Hurricane to get revenge for Kane. Kane won the match, but it was something fans wanted to forget. Kane and Hurricane had been over, and this just added a shade of something fans didn't really want. Sting coming to WWE was a big deal. This was the last holdout from the days of the Attitude Era, the one wrestler from WCW who never signed with the competition. The debut was perfect, interfering on behalf of Dolph Ziggler against the Authority, though they didn't keep the booking going as they ended up having him in a WrestleMania match against Triple H. First of all, fans were not interested in seeing Triple H versus Sting. They wanted to see Sting face The Undertaker. To make matters worse, they turned it into a DX versus NWO angle, which was simply a mess and made matters even worse by Triple H getting a win. The result might not have mattered, but then he got injured and the Taker match never took place. It was a moment that should have made Sting, but instead brought him down, all for WWE to take one last shot at WCW. When Bobby Lashley arrived in WWE, it was clear the promotion thought a lot of him. Following his debut in 2005, he won the US belt and represented Donald Trump in the Battle of the Billionaires at WrestleMania and defeated Mr. McMahon's candidate Umaga. He went on to become ECW champ, but McMahon made him lose the title in a 3-on-1 handicap match. This was the beginning of the end for his initial WWE run. He went to Raw and it appeared he would become a top star again, but it was not to be. He was supposed to be in line for a push and even become John Cena's #1 contender for the WWE Championship. They had an epic confrontation where the fans expected Lashley would finally come away with the win. Instead, it was Cena who won that match, keeping the title. Lashley went on to suffer an injury soon, and his WWE run came to an end. He was released from the company, and it's safe to say WWE messed up by doing this. Now that he's back, it's easy to see how good a star he is, and WWE screwed him during that time thanks to the losses and the weird booking. Yet another wrestler whose potential was lost to WWE's horrible booking, Bray Wyatt deserves justice. At first, they made him Husky Harris, a weird choice, changing him from his previous character of William Rotunda. When they finally gave him a character change, he became Bray Wyatt, the cult leader. He was very over on NXT, and finally he made the move to the main roster where he remained popular. The Wyatt family was one of the best factions, but still when it came time to giving him the push that would make him an undeniable star, WWE failed. They made the mistake of booking him into a corner, and then he lost to John Cena. The Wyatt family was also broken up. Over the years, Wyatt's stock fell, but eventually he used his own creative genius to get himself over. He arrived slowly in the company as The Fiend, a demonic creature who was seemingly undefeatable. However, when The Fiend won the Universal title, WWE once again booked themselves into a corner. They wanted Goldberg to win the belt and face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. For that reason, they had Goldberg defeat the star in Saudi Arabia. The Fiend was squashed, suffering his first ever defeat to a star who didn't need to be put over. WWE's booking ruined a character who should have been the next big star, with him released earlier this year. And these were 10 times wrestlers were screwed due to questionable booking. Hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.